Now let me ask you about the photos a little bit. In the photos you see the person who is named CW, who's Mob James that we know. He's wearing on an Atlanta Braves hat.
Mm.
Is that what's the deal with that? Because I know he's from a different set, and Atlantic Cross Atlantic is a whole different thing. No, like how is that? Can you break that down for the people?
I'm gonna break it down, but the people actually broke it down for me because I looked at these photos for 10 years straight
Okay.
and never noticed that he wore Atlanta Braves hat. It was the comments that said he has an Atlanta Braves hat. I had to go back and look at the picture to even
Right.
notice that. I'm gonna just be honest with you. I never noticed all this time that he had an Atlanta Braves hat on. And it could have just been the hat that he picked up out his, could have been strategic, or it could have been the hat that he just picked up out his arsenal that day. But um you talk about a man versus a hat. This is a whole man in this video, and people want to point out his hat. That's that's funny to me. You know what I mean? Those are his supporters, I believe. But at the
Right.
same time, I wouldn't care if he had a New York Yankees hat on. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? This just him in these photos, man. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That's just 100.
Right. And I believe those same neighborhoods, are were at the time were cool. No, those two
Hey
sets.
man, we was thick as thieves, man. It was all one. The East Side was one. You know, Luda's Mob, Cross Atlantic, the Limes, the Hollies, the Elm Streets. We was the East Side thing. So at that time, it wasn't no beef with nobody. So for him to have on an Atlanta Braves hat, or that wouldn't have triggered, wouldn't have triggered anything at that time.
Right.
I'm sure he wouldn't wear one now, but yeah.
Has anyone confronted James about this, like throughout throughout like since you got indicted?
Yeah, when I first fell, I sent the paperwork to the mob, to the homies, and they spoke with him about it. The paperwork I sent with him, let's be clear, the paperwork that I sent to the neighborhood back then, it didn't have the photos in. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I kept my personal paperwork, so the copies didn't have the photos in them. So when I sent the paperwork to him, it said everything it said, but it, like you said, it said CW, it said this and that, but it didn't have the photos at the time.
Mhm. I'm wondering, the photos. Now you can't really make out his face, so I'm wondering, is that the were the photos edited anyway to blacken out his face so he can't be identified?
Well, you know what? I can't. You got to ask the FBI that. I just got the photos as they were.
Okay.
And the sticky notes that was on the photo, exactly how you see it is exactly how I got it. You
Okay.
know what I mean? They wasn't altered. I believe the sticky notes was put on there for the so my attorney could differentiate exactly who was who, you know what I mean, in order to help me fight my case, you know what I mean. But I don't think so. I mean, I know the world could say a whole bunch of things, but that don't look like him, or that don't. He had Atlanta Braves hat on, he did this and that. But Compton, Watts, Linwood, man, they know exactly who it is.
Do you think certain people are scared of mob, like, because I'm not sure. I never heard of anybody confronting them.
Well, the thing about it is you wouldn't hear that. You know what I mean? I mean, you got to realize that some things is hood business, and it ain't nobody in Compton that don't know that this dude was an informant, no doubt.
Mm.
It's just at the end of the day, I just think that some people didn't. People living their lives, people doing what they doing. Nowadays we in the era where he didn't snitch on me era. He didn't do nothing to me era. But the thing about it is, I come from an era where people did do stuff. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a man in the hood that think that I would just put some allegations on this dude and it wasn't true. I don't got that. Yeah, people scared of him. You got to put that factor in there too. Yeah, this Mob James. You know what I mean? The stuff that he talk about, the stuff that he did. You know what I mean? I can't discredit that. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, the era that I also grew up in, you was a rat. You was supposed to get dealt with. You know what I mean?
Mm.
No
What
doubt.
do what do you think James hasn't been dealt with?
Well, I can only speak for me. And let me speak for me. I can't speak for the next man because I'm the one he told on. So I can't speak for the next man. I can only speak for me, AG. And let me say this. Let me break this all the way down to you because I've been heard this comment on a lot of different, come from a lot of different directions. I come home in 2013, you know. When I come home, you got to realize that, I got a family, I got kids, I got to produce some money to even be able to take care of myself from day one. You know what I mean? So when I come home, you got to realize that, you know, eating, putting some gas in the car, trying to find a job is your first objective. Once you handle that objective, you know, um, you got to be secure in your financial parts of your life in order to do anything else. That's for me, right? So, not to mention, I have 5 years paper. So when I first came home, I'm gonna be honest with you. The first couple years, I was willing to put everything on the line. If I seen this dude, fuck my family, fuck my kids, fuck everything that's moving. If I run into this dude, you know what I
Mm.
mean. You got to realize that by the time I come home, I'm 40. Mob James probably 48, 49. You know what I mean. Me as myself, trying to go to work, trying to provide for my family, trying to get a job, trying to do all these things. I'm not in the mob looking for this dude. I'm trying to make sure my kids can eat at this moment. You know what I mean? So by the time you get up and running for where you could even get your foot on the ground to even try to go look for somebody, you got to realize I don't live in the hood. Mob James don't live in the hood. So when dudes pop up in their hood, they pop up for a day or two and they gone. Gone living their lives. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, like I said, I have never seen Mob James, but I will reiterate that the first 2 years, had I did, I'd have put it on the line, instantly. As time went on, and you get the living life, and your kids get to look in you in your eyes and say, "Hey, Daddy, you home? I can go to college now, right? I can play club volleyball now, right? We can start back going to, dirt bike riding, right? You gotta look in your kids and you gotta make a decision. Is the rest of my life based on going to look for somebody, or is the rest of my life based on trying to make up from what I lost with my family? You know what I mean? And in between the two, you know what I mean? It make it to where, like I said, I never saw the dude. So by the time I get off 5 years paper, my perspective has changed. I came home at 40. By the time I get off of that paper, I'm 45 years old. You got to start thinking about in your life what's best for the rest of your life. Now, I heard some guys and some say, I heard this one guy say that I wanted to bring up. He said, man, dude was snitched on me. I would have came home and handled my business, and I would have did my time. You know what I mean? I would have been content with doing my time.
Mm.
Well, hold on, man. Think about this. You did 8 years, 8 months fucking with this dude for the first place, ratting on you. And then you're going to come home and say, I'm going to give him 15, 20 more years for going to, do something. You know what I mean? So you basically saying his life is more important than your life. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, after I come to my senses, because like I said, the first couple of years when I've been home, had I seen him, is on point. And I'm sure he might have felt the same way. I'm not taking nothing from Mob Jane. Just because a dude rat don't mean they ain't a gangster. You know what I mean? So he could have felt the same way about me. If I see F, we gonna get cracking. But you have to take into consideration that I was never a dummy. You know what I mean? And like I say, when your kids look in your eyes and say, Daddy, I'm gonna be able to go to college now, right? Since you home, Daddy, I'm gonna be able to do this. You got to make a decision. So do I choose, Mob James, or do I choose trying to be a father, trying to be a man, trying to handle my responsibilities in life? You know what I mean? And those sort of things.
Mm-hmm.